Good morning, Husker fans. Welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson of HuskerBigRed.com, and joining me this morning is Danny Gillette of thegreatcornholio.org. And Danny, it is a Victory Monday. We've got our first win, our first Big Ten win in almost a year. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I mean, Victory Monday, you can't get any better than that. Our first win since last year's first weekend in October with Northwestern. So, maybe there's something about the first weekend of October that brings out the best in the Huskers. But as we'll get into in a little bit, there was a lot more than that to take away from Saturday night's game.
Yeah, it was like we were talking before we came on air here. It was like a different team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. There was just a different energy. It was great to see a lot of the things that a scoreless second half by the defense. We saw I think 3 sacks. They got a lot of pressure. The offense. There were kind of some hiccups along the way, but they executed and they got things done when they needed to. 2 nice drives when the game was on the line. But man, I like that Mickey Joseph got the game ball, but Bill Bush, I would give him a game ball, right along with Mickey, and give him credit, give Mickey Joseph credit for making the move. But Bill Bush so far, I mean, he's like my biggest takeaway from Saturday is the defense. That looked like the defense, we expected to see at the start of the season. And man, that's a defense this team can win some games with if they can keep playing that way.
Absolutely, and we talked about it last week. They talked about simplicity and lining up faster. And, it's like at first I thought, oh, it's great to hear, like, but we always hear that, be better, blah, 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 rah, rah, rah. But then when the game actually started, it looked to me as if the players were comfortable defensively. They knew where they needed to be, and they also just kind of, made things easy. They didn't try to, go out in any, super formations. They played press on coverage. They did just the little things right, and it was very noticeable on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the tackling was a huge difference. I think they had, like only 6 missed tackles when they were averaging, 13 or 14 or something along those lines. There was a few, personnel differences, but for the most part, it was a lot of the same personnel. I mean, they used a lot of Gifford played a lot. They only used, basically 4 defensive backs, for most of the game. It's not like they, changed things up in terms of, playing a defensive back in that nickel spot, like Omar Brown. We didn't see him at all. He got moved to that nickel position, but it was Isaac Gifford, and he did a good job. I mean, Luke Reimer had his best game of the season in coverage, and so maybe it really was a factor of these guys just the scheme and Shenander was maybe just trying to do too much with them and putting these guys in a position to do things that they're not great at doing.
You look at a player like Ty Robinson, he's a player that we've really kind of ragged on, and he hasn't shown up much this season, but he showed up on Saturday night, and he had, 4 total tackles, a sack, and a tackle for a loss. And, he, I thought, was kind of the embodiment of what we saw out of the defense on Saturday. He played like we know he can, and he played like we thought he could. He was aggressive. He got into the backfield a couple times. He made tackles. He didn't seem uncomfortable. He seemed like he knew his assignment. It seemed like it was simplified to, get in the backfield. That's your assignment. And he made the plays. He didn't try to do anything too crazy. He just went out and made the plays. And it was great to see somebody like him, as well as the entire defense, kind of take on that line of thinking, and it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, Ty Robinson, we have, been pretty harsh on him this year because he just really hasn't delivered. But, Saturday night in the fourth quarter, he came up with that huge sack. And I thought that was, kind of the deal breaker for Indiana. It just really felt like, once he got that sack, Nebraska got the ball back, was able to put a drive together. But I really felt like once Ty Robinson got that sack, I just was like, man, we're not losing this game. This is ours to win.
Yeah, and when you look at his highlights, I'm just talking about Robinson. He can do that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there was a reason that the entire coaching staff at the time flew out to go recruit him. They saw his potential, and to this point, it hasn't been untapped at Nebraska. Saturday night, we saw a little bit of that, and it was great to see him get involved. And it was great to see, freshmen get involved too when called upon. And the guy I'm referring to, and you know who I'm talking about, is Malcolm Hartzog.
Yeah, he got the start, and he was huge. I mean, had a couple of pass breakups. I think he allowed like one completion, but man, he was just all over the place. They blocked the punt, scooped it up, and ran it in. And that was obviously a game changer. That was like something we haven't seen since Bo Pelini was the coach, right? Like making a big play on special teams and getting some defensive points. I mean, that used to happen quite regularly, and this defense has not been like a ball hawking defense the last few years, and that totally flipped the momentum because you had that series, where like Thompson and Whipple were screaming at each other. Whipple was pissed, and then Purdy went in there and fumbled. And like a Scott Frost team, a normal Nebraska team, they just would have fallen apart after that. And this team didn't do that. And even after they blew a 21-7 lead, you kind of thought same old Nebraska. Are they going to do this again? And they still found a way in the fourth quarter to win a game, which is something they basically could not do under Scott Frost. And so kudos to Mickey Joseph. He did a hell of a job.
Absolutely. And I kind of wrote about this yesterday. I wrote about a lot yesterday, but I wrote about this yesterday. Just to kind of touch back on Hartzog, Nebraska, they've had some very good secondary players over the years, Lamar Jackson and DiCaprio Boodle, to name a few, and they've kind of struggled to develop corners, and they've kind of struggled. They've wanted, like, when those guys have gone, there's been big holes in the secondary, and they've kind of, we saw what they did in the transfer portal, getting Tommy Hill, getting Jaden Gould for the 2022 class, but they've kind of struggled to develop corners since then. And yes, I know it's only been a couple of years, but good programs can churn out corners like that. They have one ready to go every year. And so the good, overall play by Hartzog on Saturday, I mean, that gives me hope, because if we can continue to churn out solid corners year after year, then there won't be as big a need. There won't be like, oh no, this guy is leaving for the NFL, or oh no, this guy is entering the transfer portal. What do we do now? We won't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, and it was good. I like to see that, he was aggressive and up near the line of scrimmage, and that he could actually make a play, on the ball. It's one thing to, have coverage, but you've got to be able to, knock the ball away and, kind of be a ball hawk. And he showed that, he's got that ability. He got his hands on a couple of passes, scooped up that, blocked punt for a touchdown. So Nebraska needs more guys like that. Quentin News. I just thought the secondary as a whole, they just were more aggressive. They weren't giving up those easy completions. They were challenging people, and I just thought it was good to see. It was interesting that I noticed that Bill Bush was using some three-man fronts. I saw Devin Drew, Wynn, and Ty Robinson out there quite a bit, and I think that's why Indiana only got 67 rushing yards. I mean, Nebraska. The offensive line wasn't great, but they ran the ball 51 times, 150 yards, and Indiana got like 67. And if you double your opponent's rushing yards, you're going to win a lot of games. I mean, football's not that complicated. We've talked about that. So, I liked a lot of things that I saw, and I like the fact that they, fed the football to, Anthony Grant.
And I like to see Gabe Irvin really have a strong game as well. We were kind of looking about the number 2 running back with the injury to A.J. Allen, and I thought Grant, I thought, Grant and Gabe Irvin had strong games as well. Grant had 136 yards rushing, and Irvin had 6 rushes for 21 yards, but they weren't, just, 2 yards of carry and then get completely stopped. They were hard-earned carries. So I liked to see Irvin get involved. I like to see Yant get involved, even if it was only for a little bit on the touchdown. And it was good to see, Anthony Grant, 32 carries for 136 yards. I mean, he is just something special to watch. He is so, so special. And, they kind of asked him towards the later parts of the game. I can't remember if it was the third or the fourth quarter, but there was one drive in particular that chewed up a lot of time on the clock, and Grant was able to help really stabilize the offense on that drive and put the nail in the coffin for Indiana.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to on the last touchdown drive, on the Casey Thompson touchdown run, man, Chancellor Brewington just absolutely lit a guy up for Indiana, coming off a tight end pull and allowed Casey to walk into the end zone. And that was the kind of execution that Nebraska just hasn't had, to go out down there and finish the game off. So it was great to see that. And it was great to see Casey's 70-yard pass to Trey Palmer. It felt like Casey just needed some confidence in that moment. The fourth quarters and stuff haven't gone well. So I think to hit Trey there, and I mean, let's talk about this guy. I think he's got over 400 yards receiving. He's on pace for like 1,200 yards. I mean, you look at Nebraska, we could easily have, a 12,000 yard, 1,200 yard rusher and a 1,200 yard receiver, plus maybe a 3,000 yard passer in Casey Thompson. So like this offense is legit. As much as the offensive line has struggled, like the offense can move the ball on just about anybody. I mean, outside of Oklahoma, there were some issues there, but I feel pretty confident looking at the rest of the schedule. This team's going to score points. It's just a matter of, can this defense replicate that performance from Saturday night?
And if Trey Palmer keeps playing like he played on Saturday night, he may have 12,000 yards by the end of the season. He has 480 right now, 36 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 13.3 yards per catch on the season. But Saturday night, he absolutely exploded. 8 receptions for 157 yards, 19.6 yards per reception. And, that 71-yard touchdown from the arm of Casey Thompson. First of all, that throw was an absolute bomb from Thompson. Yeah. I was watching the throw on the TV, and they had, how they showed when the throw in the deep view angle, and I just kept looking up and up and up, and I just kept seeing the ball. And right there, Trey Palmer was there to grab it, and boy, he utilized his speed. The defender was gone in a hot minute, and Trey Palmer just raced to the end zone for the touchdown. And honestly, they need to do more of that. They need to open up the playbook, open up the deep throws a little bit more, because I feel very confident in Trey Palmer against, probably any corner. He has that type of speed where he is a matchup nightmare for anybody involved, and credit to Nebraska here too. They knew that Trey Palmer was a matchup advantage against the Indiana secondary, and they went out and exploited it very, very well. And they just kept feeding him the ball, and it was a recipe for success, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and really, if you look at Trey Palmer, man, I mean, almost every single game this year, even the Oklahoma game, he produced some stuff. So there hasn't been a team yet that's been able to cover it. I mean, really, the biggest issue has been, Casey Thompson just not having time. That's the only thing that's really slowed down, this pass offense. Because, I mean, like Bokelek is doing nice things. I think Marcus Washington has done, like if you look at the transfer portal guys at receiver, they were all basically, hits. I have to give Oliver Martin credit. He caught a 39-yard touchdown pass. So, those guys are kind of proving me wrong, but hey, I love it. Like, I don't care, man. If I talk about these guys and say, bad things and they go and score a touchdown next week, like that's awesome. I love it. I love to, get proven wrong, especially in a positive side of things for, Nebraska. But yeah, big time plays from Oliver Martin, Vokalek's, kind of easing into that role. And, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be really interesting because, we've got 4 days here and then boom, we're right back at it with Rutgers. And I think is a winnable game, but it's going to be a tough game on the road too.
Tough game, quick turnaround, short rest, Friday night. I don't know why. Well, I don't know why Rutgers has these stupid Friday night games, because that's high school football day on Friday night, and I mean, I guess it's to get more eyes for Rutgers, but
I don't think you'll ever see that I don't think you'll ever see Nebraska playing at home on a Friday night.
No, absolutely not.
No way.
Yeah, I guess high school football in New York is not, or New Jersey, New York, wherever they are, is not as strong. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And kind of circling back just for a second here to Casey Thompson, he has over 1,000 yards on the season, 1,265, and on Saturday he averaged 10 yards a throw, and he had those 2 touchdowns. So I think it's just a matter of the line giving him time, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I had him, I predicted him for 300 yards, and I thought he was going to get there, and didn't quite do it. But that's fine with me. He still did what I thought he was going to do, and The offensive line, I think, they've been much maligned, but we should give them some credit. I'm not saying that they played perfect, and they're not going to play perfect. There's injuries. I mean, if you look at it, two of the top starters, your entire left side of the starting line has been injured. And Williams got hurt too, which was one of your other, so like you're looking at 3 of your top 8 guys are hurt right now. And so it's just a unit that's going to have to scrape it together. Donovan Raiola is just going to have to do the best job he can do every week. And there were some warts on Tuesday or on Saturday night. But like I said in one of my posts, with good coaching, you can win with a couple warts. If you got one wart or two, you can cover it up. You can't have warts all over the field. So if the offensive line is our only concern, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think we can work around it. And the one thing is those guys have shown at least they can do some things in the running game, although I was slightly concerned. If you look at Anthony Grant's night, 132 yards, his longest run was 17. And that tells you that this offensive line didn't open up like a big, he didn't get like a 30 or 40 yard chunk play. Like he ground out all those yards. And so it would be nice to see, some bigger holes from the offensive line. But I think the way they played Saturday night, for the most part, Nebraska can at least work with that. It wasn't Oklahoma, for instance.
Yeah, and I mean Grant has shown that he can work with a bad offensive line all season. I mean, he is just crazy to watch. The way he can cut, the way he can move, his vision. I mean, there's a reason, he's climbing up the ranks in terms of Big Ten running backs. Right now, he has 600 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns and is averaging 5.3 yards on the season with that line. So I think Grant is going to be all right. But boy, is he something special, man. He is really, really special.
Yeah, he's going to be, if you look at the race for like all Big Ten running back, he's right there with Blake Corum. I mean, Blake Corum in Michigan's having a great season. I know Travion Henderson from Ohio State's really good. I haven't honestly looked at his numbers that much. I know there's Mo Ibrahim from Minnesota, but if you're talking about the best running backs in the Big Ten right now, Anthony Grant's name has got to be included there, because like if you put Anthony Grant behind like Michigan's offensive line, just like think about the kind of numbers this dude would be putting up. I mean, he is spectacular. I don't think that there's very many. I don't think that there's 5 running backs in the country that are better than him just in terms of running the football.
What a find he was, and that's a credit to Brian Applewhite too. We talk about what Brian Applewhite's doing on the recruiting trail. He really started his work, obviously when he got here, and Anthony Grant was a huge find. And boy, it's just so exciting to watch him, because when he gets the football, no matter if it's for a loss or for a gain, he's going to try to make something out of it. And that's something we didn't always see from running backs last season, but Grant is he's a game changer.
Yeah, he is. And, Trey Palmer is one. We've talked about that. And I think that I like what Casey Thompson is bringing. I think, Chuba, I'm not going to blame him for that fumble thing. I mean, sure, he should have had better ball awareness, but that doesn't mean,
spot.
Yeah, that doesn't mean the guy can't play or anything like that. But at the same time, this is Casey's team. I also, though, I do like that there's more accountability. I don't mind that they pulled him for a little bit. Like, my thing is, this team has had it's been so maligned. There's been so many mistakes. Like, if you mess up, you're going to get pulled. You're going to get screamed at. There's going to be accountability. Tommy Hill is being held accountable, I'm assuming, for not only his terrible play, but quitting against, Oklahoma. And, he got benched because of it. And he's not the only guy who got benched. And looking the way things are looking, got more guys are going to get benched if they don't perform. And that's how it should be. I mean, everybody here's on a scholarship for a reason, and it's time to play up to that expectation or let somebody else try it. And I love that philosophy.
The guys who were benched on Saturday should have gotten benched either for poor performance or just, not caring. And the guys who came in for them really played well. And, now it's one of my Twitter followers said jobs were won and lost on Saturday, and I completely agree.
One thing, though, I do have to give Tommy Hill credit, man. Like, when Hartzog scored that touchdown, one of the first guys to meet him on the sideline was Tommy Hill. And I think that says a lot, because that guy took his job. But that doesn't mean that Nebraska is still going to need those guys. Like, you're not going to make it through the season with 2 corners, right? So, I think that was good that, however they went about that, Mickey and the staff were able to say, hey, just because you're in this spot doesn't mean you're not going to get another opportunity later. But I like that. I liked that. Mark Whipple, not saying that he has called everything perfect, but I liked him getting in Casey's face. Like that's the kind of energy just we didn't see with Scott Frost. His staff on the sideline all the time, and I just love to see it, that accountability, that passion. That passion of we need to find a way to get this right, and you're better than this. That's the thing is Mark Whipple knows what kind of quarterback Casey Thompson can be, and he played like it. Once he got his chance to re-enter the game. And I think that, kudos to Casey too. It's not always easy to get benched and come back and make some plays, and he did that. So, kudos to all the Nebraska guys. They really came together and put together their best win in a long time. I mean, we haven't won a Big Ten game in almost a year. So this was a huge freaking win for Nebraska.
Absolutely. And honestly, you can make the case, Indiana's 2 top wide receivers were out and this, that, and the other thing. To Indiana's credit, I thought their backup receivers did pretty well. I thought they did really well. And, they gave Nebraska a challenge. Jalen Davis, I believe, was their running back's name. He was extremely fast. Boy, he took off, especially on that 34-yard run to end the half. He's a smaller guy, but those smaller guys like the Darren Sproles types, they're fast. And, credit to Indiana for kind of just making do with what they have. And it was a very entertaining game, and that's not something we have said in a little bit.
No, it hasn't. And it was, thinking back on it, it was kind of cool if people didn't see, like after the game, Trev Alberts was in the locker room and he gave Mickey Joseph, the game ball. And so I thought, we could talk about who our game balls, should go to, Danny. So, I know I'm kind of bringing this up, just kind of out of the cold, but who, if you were to give out like an offensive, defensive, and coaching game ball, who would each of those go to?
All right, coaching, Bill Busch. Do I have to give an explanation, or do you want to just rattle off names?
However you want to do it.
Bill Busch. I mean, I'll just say really quickly, he really put his players in a position to succeed. He got the players to play for him, and he got the players to buy in. It would have been very easy for the defensive unit to fold, but they didn't, and they look like they are on board with what he brings to the table. Offense, Trey Palmer. I mean, there were a couple of guys that really shone on offense, but Trey Palmer, he was just electric. He is a game changer. He is Nebraska's number 1 receiver, and I'm excited to see where he goes the rest of the season, how he plays, and I can see why Mickey absolutely loved him. And defense is a little bit tough. Defense is tough. There were a bunch that deserved the game ball. Luke Reimer.
Yeah,
I'm going to say Luke Reimer. I think, he made that interception, if I remember correctly. And,
that was huge.
We were kind of dogging on the linebackers for, these linebackers are supposed to be so good, and they're not performing up to their standards. And this looked like the Luke Reimer of last year, and it was really great to see him attack, see him hopefully get back on track, and see him play at a high level and in some very big moments throughout the night.
Yeah, he was flying around. He looked faster to me. He just looked like a different player. That was the whole defense. I don't know if it was just them not thinking as much, but they definitely played faster. And yeah, I think my coaching game ball goes to Bill Busch too. Just the simple fact that he was able to make halftime adjustments and shut out Indiana over the second half, 2 of 15 on third downs. I mean, that third down has absolutely killed Nebraska over the last few years. And to hold somebody to 2 of 15, I thought was huge. My offensive game ball, I'm going to give it to Casey Thompson. And I know he didn't play a perfect game. I think, Trey Palmer and Anthony Grant probably just had better overall performances, but I thought he really set the tone, with his drive. And then, that perfect pass to Trey Palmer, Nebraska doesn't win that game without him making that play. So I'm going to give him my offensive game ball. My defensive game ball is going to Garrett Nelson. He had 2 sacks. He finally looked like a dominant player, an all Big Ten kind of player, like Luke Reimer is another guy who's been talked about like as an all Big Ten performer. And, he was all over the place. He had 2 sacks, but he also had a few other, I think he had like 5 or 6 total pressures. So it wasn't like, he just got a couple of plays there. It was consistent pressure. And man, if he can bring that, if Mathis can bring it, Caleb Tanner had like 5. He didn't get a sack, but he had some pressures.
Involved. He was involved.
Yeah. He did have 5 or 6, pressures. And I don't know why those guys weren't being, it seems like Caleb Tanner didn't get as many chances to rush the passer earlier. I'm not sure why that is, but those three guys got to keep it up, and Ty Robinson too. If Nebraska's going to keep this roll going, because I mean, it's funny. It's one win, but it feels like five to me. It feels like Nebraska's like on a 5-game winning streak. I think that's been so long since we had like a legitimate win to celebrate.
Well, that and the fact that it seems like this team, like it's an entirely different feel around this team. You can sense, players feel more comfortable. I mean, you could see it, especially defensively. You can see players feeling more comfortable. You can kind of sense a different energy in the air. I mean, I'm excited to see what they do on Friday and see if they can continue to build off this because, if this team keeps playing like they did on Saturday night, with us being first in the Big Ten or tied for first in the Big Ten West,
Tied
who
first,
knows?
baby. Yeah.
Who knows?
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. And then to lead
Still a
into
lot
that,
to
I
play
guess.
for.
Yeah.
Still a lot to play for.
A lot to play for. And who would have thought, man, who would have thought that Nebraska and Wisconsin would be without head coaches, after the first week of October? It's just crazy.
I think Wisconsin made a huge mistake, but that's just my opinion.
You don't think firing Chris was a good move?
No, I mean, because Wisconsin's been consistent, I mean, for the majority of his tenure. So I also don't think firing Chris was a good move because I think Lance Leopold shoots up Wisconsin's coaching board. But, I just think it was I mean, Wisconsin's been pretty consistent over the past couple of years. And as we know, consistency is hard to find in college football. So I don't really like the move by Wisconsin, and we'll see what comes out of it. And also that game against Wisconsin now looks a little bit more winnable.
Yeah, they're not. They are struggling, and it's interesting, that they have a much different situation because it's like people have been talking about Jim Leonard being the guy there since last year. Chris was kind of on the hot seat. They started 3-3 last year, but really got blown out by Michigan and Notre Dame. And so, they finished strong, but then all they had to do was beat Minnesota to make the Big Ten West or the Big Ten title game. Lost that, and then you lose at home to Washington State, and then just get your doors blown off by Illinois, and your old head coach. So I can see. I think the other reason too is if they don't move Jim Leonard up, if they don't give him this chance, they're going to lose him to somebody else. I mean, he's not going to stay there and be the defensive court. So I think, to me, I'm not that worried about Dave Aranda and Lance Leopold there. If Jim Leonard has a good season, if he wins, he'll be the head coach. I mean, this isn't even like a Mickey Joseph. Like, I think Mickey has a chance. I think this is Jim Leonard's job to lose. If he doesn't put together a winning season, then maybe he'll be gone. But I think the interim title with him is a little looser than like with Mickey. I think that the idea is like if he can even go do just get this team turned around, get to a bowl game, and which isn't going to be that hard at Wisconsin. He's going to be the head coach. So I think it's just a matter of, I think the Badgers have, they're sitting there saying like, hey, are we going to stick with Paul Chryst and then watch Nebraska or somebody hire Jim Leonard and have him be a great coach, and then you're firing Paul Chryst like in a year or two because he still is. I mean, he had the one good year, but every other year he's lost 3 or 4 games, which that's Wisconsin. But I can see why they made the move, and I think Jim Leonard and kind of the coaching carousel had a big role in that.
Yeah, I suppose it was the right time. It's just, in comparison to us, Wisconsin has the consistency that we would kill for, I guess it's the grass is a little bit greener on the other side. Yeah. But, it's going to be interesting to see. Someone kind of hypothetically, put his name in the Nebraska coaching search, but I think we have a solid list of candidates, and I think I have my top 3 or my coaching board, so to speak. I think I finally kind of
what is it? What's your top 3
this weekend? Okay, so my top 3 is Dave Aranda, okay. Lance Leopold, and Mickey Joseph.
Okay. Yeah,
I know.
I can see that. No, I was just going to say I can see that. I mean, Mickey's definitely on the rise.
Mickey's definitely on the rise, and I think depending on what he does here, like if he and I don't want to go, okay, if he's 76, well, will he make a blah blah blah. I don't want to do that. I just want to say, like, if he gets to a bowl game, wins the game, if the team buys in, because you saw how excited they were for his win on Saturday night, would I necessarily want to shake that up? I don't know if I would. And I understand he's not a big name, but if the signs in recruiting, signs of winning, if all the signs point to success, I would at least give him a hard look.
Yeah, I think he's put himself in the conversation a little bit more. I don't think, one win over Indiana is going to dramatically change things, but it does give him an opportunity to build some momentum. If you can beat Rutgers, if you can win some games in November, I think he's going to have a chance to, be in that conversation for sure. And the recruiting aspect of it is a big deal. And, like with Oklahoma kind of fallen by the wayside, I think the Malachi Coleman thing is still wide open. I mean, he canceled his visit to Ole Miss. He went to Miami this weekend, and they're not looking good. I mean, they've had some bad losses too. So it's like, I don't know. Looking at it, like if Miami and Oklahoma are the biggest competitions, I still think this is a winnable battle for Malachi Coleman and Sean Callahan. I mean, just in terms of a couple of days ago from Husker Online was saying he still thinks Nebraska is the team to beat. So
I was looking at some crystal balls, and a lot of crystal balls are still in Nebraska's favor. So I don't know.
The prediction machine because like the crystal balls are set. I like the On3 prediction machine because it really
that's what I mean. The prediction machine, not the crystal balls.
But I mean, even so, both of them. I mean, there aren't any. It's 98% Nebraska. Miami's the number 2 spot right now, but and I mean, Mario Cristobal is a great recruiter. There's no question about that. But their offense with Miami hasn't looked a bit any better than Nebraska. They just lost to
Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, and they got blown out, and they scored like 7 or 8 points. They did not score a lot of points in the loss to Texas A&M. So I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's just been a weird recruitment with Malachi Coleman because he is it's like Miami's getting in this thing late, but is that really the program that's going to steal him away from Nebraska? I mean, I don't know if that was Georgia making that push or somebody like that, I'd be a little more worried. But and in USC, must have fallen off in this thing because he didn't make that visit there, and I don't really hear their name. So I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to imagine that he would come to Nebraska, but I mean, the win I think on Saturday helps, and I think the fact that Mickey Joseph has a really strong relationship with him is helping too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I think Mickey is the key to Coleman even keeping Nebraska in the conversation. So I'll be interested to see how it all plays out. I'll be interested to see how this all plays out. The coaching carousel this season. Nebraska recruiting. I mean, I don't want to jinx it too early, but I want to say that things might be looking up for Nebraska football.
Yeah, I think if you get a couple wins and then you get Malachi, if you get to a bowl game, you get Malachi Coleman. I mean, you got to look at Mickey pretty hard. I know, people, it might seem kind of stupid to hire someone based off recruits, but that's how you win in college football is getting recruits. If Mickey Joseph can get the recruits, then that's certainly a point in his favor. And the recruiting, I don't think people, if you don't follow recruiting that well, I don't think it can be overstated, like how competent Nebraska recruiting has gotten in the last 2 weeks. Scott Frost was clueless. He was an absolute buffoon when it came to recruiting. I mean, he didn't listen to the coaches in the state. He pissed off a lot of coaches. I mean, they would be like, hey, you should offer this guy. Mickey Joseph just offered an unranked dude out of, Omaha, a 6'6" offensive tackle. And Nebraska's probably going to have a good chance of getting that guy now if they want. And where if, Nebraska would have just ignored him before, like they were ignoring a top 500 quarterback and the number 4 player in the 2024 class. And Scott Frost didn't have the time of day didn't even know if he had a committable offer anymore. I mean, that's malpractice. Like, I'm sorry, but what Scott Frost was doing at Nebraska was recruiting malpractice, and Mickey Joseph has just done a complete 180 with the pro. I mean, the recruiting momentum for where the program's at right now is actually in a pretty good spot. I mean, he has the kid, I'm blanking on the name, but he's committed to Iowa State. He was there on Saturday night. Tulane running back, looks like they've got a good chance to flip him. So not only are they kind of
Arnold Barnes?
Yeah, Barnes. Yep. And then it's like Nyogi. I have to look up the name. People are going to kill me for this, but he's from Omaha. He's committed to Iowa State. He's a receiver, and Nebraska never recruited him very hard. I think but anyways, Mickey's really making some headway with those guys, and I just think it shows like this guy, he knows how to put together a recruiting operation because we've already seen it in these past 2 weeks.
Well, I remember back in February, the coaching staff was kind of introduced to different high schools in the area, and they went on this. I don't know if you remember this, Chris, but they went on like this tour to visit some local high schools, and all the entire coaching staff was there, and I forget which high school it was. I'm going to look up the article while you make your point. But one of the coaches said, it's good that all the coaching staffs are here. In previous years, we felt like Nebraska has completely kind of missed the boat on us and not paid enough attention to the high schools in the state. So it's good to see all the coaching staff here. And, I think there's something to be said for that and what Mickey Joseph has done in trying to keep Nebraska kids home.
Yes, and I 100% agree. He's rebuilding that relationship. He's making offers, and he's visiting these kids. Now it's like Nebraska, they've been out and seen tons of prospects, committed prospects, other prospects in the 2020. I mean, he's been out to see Malachi Coleman a number of times. Benny Yogi, that's the receiver I'm talking about from Lincoln, who's committed to Iowa State, and some people have been kind of, but he's the number 7th ranked player in the state. He's out of Lincoln, 6'4", 180. And trust me when I tell you that if Iowa State wants him, he's a good player because Iowa State has one of the best, recruiting departments at evaluating talent. They don't offer guys. I mean, I'm not saying you're going to have 100% success rate on every recruit. That's just not possible. It's like the draft, right? I mean, in evaluating high school recruiting, I think is even harder than the draft because you're projecting 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to, college level programs. So that is kind of hard to do, but Iowa State has proven to be really good at it. And I think that would be a great win for Nebraska if they could flip that kid. I like the Barnes running back too. I know his ranking's not, when you look at his ranking, he's ranked in the 1300s, but man, he's averaging like almost like over 150 yards a game running the football this year. So I think that's a good senior evaluation. And, Nebraska's getting in there before, any of the SEC teams kind of do it. So I think that's going to be a nice pickup. And they're going to need another running back in this class for sure. So, I like a lot of the things, where it's headed. And it seems like Nebraska actually has like a bona fide, strategy of how to develop their recruiting class.
It's nice, isn't it? It's really nice. And I'll be interested to see what happens, like I said, over the next couple months, what they do in recruiting, how they attack recruiting, if they are able to land any kids from Louisiana. I know Mickey went there during the bye week, and, he visited some names who I am blanking on. There's just so many kids and so many rankings,
He did go see O'Marion Miller was one, and then the Barnes kid, I think, was another. But yeah, there's a bunch he's been after.
But so I'm excited to see, what he can do and what this entire staff can do in recruiting. And, if Nebraska keeps winning, it certainly makes it an easier sell.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is Nebraska's got, so here's where we're at with the Malachi Coleman sweepstakes. If he doesn't change anything, he's supposed to make a decision October 22nd, which would be Nebraska's second bye week because they've got Rutgers on Friday night at Rutgers, and then the next Saturday at Purdue, unless I'm mistaken. I believe that's what the schedule is, and then there's a bye week. So it kind of sets up well. If Malachi's committing when Nebraska doesn't have a game, but I'm not sure what to make of that. I just feel like if he was gonna, if another team was gonna, steal in and kind of take that thunder, it would have happened already. I just don't know if there's enough time, Also, I'll be interested to see if he sticks with that, decision date, I guess is where, I'm coming around to.
Well, didn't he already change it once?
He did, but it was like from October 15th to October 20th. So it wasn't like a massive change. I think he moved it back.
Maybe he's using October 22nd to go down to Lincoln and make his commitment.
That's what people are saying. They're like, oh, that can't be a bad move. Then Mickey's going to be able to be there for it.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
So,
maybe.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a better chance though, for sure. I mean, anytime winning makes everything better. It makes, it just makes all your problems go away. It makes recruiting better. It makes the state. I mean, I think you just feel like the large exhale Saturday night at the end of that game. Like those last couple minutes, it was just there was so much frustration built up. I get that we fired Scott Frost, but I don't think people remembered outside of Nebraska fans that this team lost 6 games in a row last year. So
And not just 6 games in a row, 6 heartbreaking
yeah,
losses in a row.
yeah, and had to kind of start this year with a heartbreaker against Northwestern and then Georgia
That seems
Southern.
so long ago.
It does, but it's crazy though that Nebraska's 2-3, and I mean, with the Big Ten West, Minnesota looked like the big dog, and then they went to Purdue and got beat. Iowa is still going to be in the mix, I think, but they lost to Michigan. It's going to be a crazy kind of schedule. And Minnesota and Wisconsin, they both have to come to Lincoln. Purdue's the game that I'm really worried about from a Nebraska perspective. In these next couple of weeks. And Illinois too. I guess I should. Illinois just went to Camp Randall and kicked the crap out of the Badgers. So who's to say they can't come do the same, in Lincoln in a few weeks?
Brett Bielema runs a very tight ship. He's a very good coach, and they did that to us last year in the opener. So we'll see. I mean, it seems like everything is up for grabs right now, and Nebraska is truly in control of their own destiny.
Yeah, really. I mean, because their only loss right now is to Northwestern, and that team's not winning the Big Ten West. So, it's if you were gonna preseason, if we were gonna lose one game, obviously you want that loss to be to a team that's lower down in the standings, even though it looks bad. But tiebreaker wise, it's going to be better than losing to Purdue or any of these. Because I think Minnesota will still be my pick. Iowa, I still think is going to be in the mix. I don't believe in Wisconsin, but it wouldn't shock me if they were sitting there 5-3 at some point.
They're consistent.
And then Illinois, you can't count Illinois out or Purdue. I mean, it's pretty wild how it's kind of shaky, but that's how the Big Ten West kind of always is. It's just kind of a shit show compared to the East.
The wild, wild West.
The wild, wild West. USC's licking their chops, man. They're like, we'll be going to Indy every year.
Yeah, I know that they must be looking at it right now and just kind of kicking back, relaxing by their nice sunny palm trees in their pool, just realizing what they have. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be fun when USC comes. It's going to be a lot of fun. It may lead to pain on our part, but maybe that will cause us to elevate our game. Who knows? It's going to be a lot of fun.
I hope so, man. I hope that we can become the Utah of the pack.
That'd be awesome.
Everybody kind of thought Utah sucked for a while, and now they're bam, right? I don't see why Nebraska can't be like that, though. Utah doesn't have, I look back at Kyle Whittingham's recruiting classes, man. He's not getting top 25 classes, but he's developing guys. He's got a badass defense, and and then they hit on a guy in the transfer portal. I feel like that's for Nebraska and teams like that. It's recruit and develop, and then every once in a while you just have to get lucky in the transfer portal with a quarterback or whatever. And I feel like that's how you can win. But you got to be really good at something. I feel like defenses. I love Mickey. I would like to get a defensive guru head coach, but at the same time, man, that doesn't mean that Mickey can't hire a great defensive coordinator either. I'm not necessarily into. I don't want a head coach that calls plays. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, because head coaches have way too many other responsibilities than to call plays. I understand they may want to, but that's just a lot to ask of them, I think. And, I'll be interested to see how the defense continues to develop and evolve, because we know the offense can do their job. We just need to see more consistency out of the defense. And fortunately, we get to see a quick turnaround this week. So let's hope they can put together 2 strong games in a row.
Yeah, and I think people, I think people underestimated Bill Busch a little bit. Looking at his resume, and he's been a coordinator before. He's coached around this game a lot, and he did an exceptional job. I don't think he's a guy. Looking at that performance, he's a guy that Nebraska could use on this staff, whether it's back at special teams or the safeties or whatever it is. But he's a guy that I think you want around. I think you want Mickey and Applewhite. I'm not even willing. I'm not saying we should give up on Raiola either, because he's just been, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? And he's trying. He's doing the best job that he can. But he's got to go out and recruit some guys, so that'll be interesting to see. But I do think Mickey's got to win some more games, because if we go back and we lose to Rutgers on Friday, it's going to be the same conversation that we were at this past week. You know what I mean? So
we're gonna be the same sad two guys on Monday morning
yeah.
talking about what we should have done, and let's hope not. But and Rutgers is no slouch
So
either. I don't.
we gonna see Noah Vedral again? Is that what I was getting from your
I
message the
think
other
so
day?
because I think the Rutgers quarterback got hurt in Saturday's game. I'm just checking it right now. Let me see if I can find
Gavin
it.
Wimsatt, and
Gavin Wimstead.
he's a dude. He's like the best quarterback Rutgers has recruited maybe ever.
Yeah.
He was for a while he was a borderline 5-star recruit, and so yeah, he kind of gives me hope that they could not suck. I mean, not hope, I guess, but
Yeah, so he was not available for, it says, and this was from Saturday. It says Rutgers will be without Gavin Wimsett for the game at Ohio State. So that was this past Saturday, correct?
yeah, yep,
And then injured senior Noah Vedral, who has yet to play this year, as a game time decision.
hmm.
So that was last Saturday. And then it says if Evan Simon starts, it'd mark his third consecutive start for the Knights. So now I'm going to go check the box score, see what happened there. But the long-winded point of this was to say that Rutgers may be having some quarterback issues heading into Friday night.
So even if they get one of their more talented guys back, Wimsatt or Vedral, they haven't played yet this year. It doesn't sound like, which I didn't realize that. And we actually we're going to bring on later on the week. We're going to bring on a Rutgers guy, so we'll get you a lot of great info on the Scarlet Knights. So yeah, but they got drilled by Ohio State. Not that a lot of teams do that, but one thing about Greg Schiano teams, man, they fight. And did you see that fight after the game? He was going after Ryan Day
Ryan
there.
Day, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, and the media made a huge deal out of it. Let's be honest here. Tensions
Yeah.
run high on the field, and that includes coaches. I mean, sure, it looked good for the media to paint it as, the next Mayweather McGregor, but it wasn't that. It was just, coaches, intensity's high, emotions are high, and sometimes, you gotta send your season's greetings to the opposing coach on the other sideline. So,
Yeah, apparently Ryan. So there was like a fake punt or something that
hmm.
Ryan Day called, and Chiano didn't like it. And I get it, but apparently Rutgers had a really bad alignment on their punt return. But it's like, do you still need to run a fake when you're winning by a lot? Probably not. So I mean, I can see it from both. I can see the argument of like, hey, we're going to play the game for 60 minutes, like that's what it is. But at the same time, there's kind of like those unwritten rules in baseball type of thing, right? Like if you're up by 40 or whatever, and I don't know the situation, I wasn't paying attention, but you probably should just punt the goddamn ball. You know what I mean? But whatever.
And let me say, the unwritten rules of baseball are bullshit. All the old heads get offended, but they're the reason why the game is as boring as it is now. And before I get off of my baseball rant, Evan Simon played for Rutgers under center on Saturday, 10 of 19 for 74 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So I think Rutgers may be hoping that their starter is healthy for Friday. That's just my opinion. Although, as you said, Ohio State can make a lot of teams look bad.
I haven't. I'm interested. What do you think the line is going to be? I know you're not quite as into like the stuff like that, but just from judging Nebraska, like, do you think Nebraska is going to have a chance to be favored in this game? It's probably out already, but
I haven't seen the odds yet. They are probably out. They are usually out Sundays, right? Sunday nights is what I've been seeing.
Sundays. I'm gonna check here and see what we got. I feel like I feel like Nebraska is going to be favored in this game. That's just like my Nebraska by 2.5 points right now. So that sort of makes sense. I could see that moving a little bit. I mean, the fact that Rutgers is down to their third string quarterback, maybe, has part to do with it. But
On a short week.
yeah,
Nice.
Nebraska. So yeah, and then it's interesting. And the over under is 51.5. So I don't know. What are your first impressions? Nebraska as a 2.5 point favorite.
I like it because I think The recipes are there for success: good defense, balanced offense, good play. Especially if if Rutgers is down to their third string quarterback. I think this gives Nebraska an opportunity to really kind of take control of the game. The odds makers were right with Indiana. I thought the Indiana odds were a little bit ambitious, but as I often am, I was proven wrong. So, I like it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be an easy game by any means. Rutgers always plays tough. It's Friday night, but I do like our chances of winning by that margin at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Nebraska's got momentum right now, and Rutgers doesn't have it, and I think it's Rutgers doesn't have anybody like Anthony Grant, or they don't have a Trey Palmer, they don't have a Casey Thompson that's healthy right now. So I mean, you look at like just those couple things; those are pretty big advantages. And if this defense can play, if the defense can just hold people to like 20, 21 points a game, which is pretty much what they did last year, they'll win a lot of games. I mean, because this offense is scoring better than they did a year ago. This offense has definitely taken a step forward outside of the Oklahoma game, which just kind of got away from everybody. I think we should just throw that in the trash. Offense and just was a terrible kind of situation for the whole program to be in. But I mean, this offense can score points. They can move the football. It's just a matter of, can this defense play complementary? And they did it on Saturday. Hopefully they can do it Friday night. It is going to be scary though. I remember the last time we went to Rutgers on a Friday night, we had to rally back, and I think we won in overtime. Maybe it was the fourth.
No, it wasn't overtime. Hold on.
I'm getting Michigan confused, but we had to come back though, right?
No, because the last time we won, the last time we won at Rutgers, it was a Friday night. That was the night that Dedrick Mills and Adrian Martinez absolutely ran the shit out of the football. It was cold.
Did, but yeah, you're right. It didn't go to overtime, but we were down though. I remember we were down like 10 points at some point, or at least a touchdown.
I'm taking a look at this, so keep filling the airwaves with content here while I search.
But yeah, so I'm thinking probably Wednesday we'll get have our Rutgers guy come on here. His name's Aaron Brightman of the Scarlet Authority. He's been covering Rutgers for a long time, so he'll be able to give us a good rundown. We'll talk about the game a little bit, but I mean, huge opportunity for Nebraska. 3-3 overall to get to 2-1 in the Big Ten. I mean, I get excited. It's awesome to have a win and to have something to like feel optimistic about and look forward to. And because man, if you win this next game, you get to 3 wins. I'm going to feel really good. Like that. I want that Purdue game to like be a big game. You know what I mean?
I think that's a toss-up. Honestly, I don't think that's a guaranteed win for Purdue.
No, I don't think it is either. No, I wish it was at home. I feel a lot better if Purdue was coming to Lincoln.
And they don't have Rondale Moore and David Bell anymore, so that certainly helps.
That's true. And Aiden O'Connell's pretty good, but but yeah, they don't have the receivers like they used to. So
yeah, their receivers are really good.
And that's I think Minnesota lost Chris Altman-Bell. I think he's out for the season, man. So that's
I don't know. Things may be looking up, people. Don't attack us for drinking the Kool-Aid and coming our mentions, but I'm just saying things are looking up.
Facts are facts, man. Facts are facts. Like Nebraska's tied for the Big Ten West lead. I'm not making that up.
I know. I couldn't believe that. I definitely remember sending a message on Saturday. Is this right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, as long as Penn State beats Northwestern, which they did.
So. Everybody's beating Northwestern now,
except for us.
Except for us.
Sad,
but we're looking forward. We're looking forward. It's a new day, clearly a new day, and we have Friday to look forward to.
Yeah, Friday's going to be fun, and man, it will be nice.
Are you working Friday?
Yeah, I'm working Friday, unfortunately, covering the high school. So I'm going to have to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the Husker radio network on and the earbuds while I'm watching the football game. Because I never miss a Husker game, no matter by hook or by crook. Like I will watch or listen or stream to the game somehow or some way. My employers already know that about me. I don't care. They just, I can multitask, but I will never miss a Nebraska game. I don't give a crap.
I love it. You guys will probably see me tweeting on Friday. Not see me tweeting, but watch me tweet, I guess, or follow my tweets on Friday. Thank you, as always, for the interaction on both of our accounts. I mean, it is always more fun to do these things when you win, and let's hope for, dare I say it, I think it's called a win streak.
A win streak.
A win streak.
We've not had a win streak in Nebraska for a long time.
Well, I
So
think the last time we had a win streak was when we beat Fordham and one other trash team.
probably like Northwestern last year or whatever. Fordham, and then they beat somebody else. Oh no, you're right. You're right, because they lost to Oklahoma. So yeah, Fordham. Yeah, it was like a 2-game win streak last year.
Fordham and who else? I'm gonna
Buffalo.
look this.
I think it was
Yeah,
Buffalo.
it was Buffalo because Kyle Van Treese.
Yeah, because he
we
came
made
back.
him look awful.
So yeah, man, you go from Fordham and Buffalo, which was the longest win streak of the God. That was the longest win streak of the Scott Frost era. That just blah. But to get a 2-game win streak over Indiana and Rutgers still isn't great, but sounds a lot better than
Big
Fordham
Ten.
and
It's
Buffalo.
Big Ten play.
Exactly.
Big Ten play. So
every Big Ten win is a big one. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
So. Well, all right, folks, we're coming up here at the 7 o'clock hour in here in Mountain Time, 9 o'clock in where Danny's at in Massachusetts. So since we do have an early game this week, we'll try to get our next episode up on Wednesday. I'll reach out to our Rutgers guy and we'll get you some great info going into that matchup. But make sure that you are checking out our content at huskerbigred.com and thegreatcornholio.org. You can find our written thoughts, which probably at times make a little more sense than what we're kind of jabbering out here. But, we love talking Husker football. So, make sure you join us, subscribe to our podcast at Spotify or Apple, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our Husker content. And, get in the comment section and, let us know what you think, because we love interaction, as Danny said. So, if you hit us up with some comments or questions, we'll definitely, debate with you, answer with you. And we love nothing more than talking Nebraska football. So
absolutely. And it's going to be exciting times are ahead. I can feel it. So I think it's going to be a lot of good fun.
At least we have something to talk about. We cannot talk about the coaching search for a little bit, because right now I'm feeling pretty good about who our head coach is. So we'll see how we're feeling next Monday. But this is a victory Monday. This is our first Big Ten victory Monday in a long time. So everybody enjoy it out there. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.